Welcome back, friends. This is Mr. DCT here. Have you ever wondered how data travels in your computer memory or RAM? Well, in today's video, we are going to be breaking down, if not the most complex data structure. We are going to be talking about object-oriented programming in C++, and we are going to be building our first linked list. Okay, so without any further ado, let's just dive in. Before doing that, we are going to create a class, and to do that we will first include our standard library, which is like the library for C++ for us to be able to run commands in the console, like to use statements like cout, that means character out, right? So to do that, let's first include that library #include iostream, input output stream, right? Okay, now we're going to create a class called node. So this class is going to contain some private data. Now if you look very well in this image here, I kind of represented what we are going to be doing. You see that node 1 contains the data 1001 and it's been pointed to or kind of connected to node 2, which contains data 1002, and node 2 is connected to a null character. That means it is the last element or the last node in the list, right? Okay, so our node is going to contain a private, it's going to be private, meaning that only this node is going to access itself. That means no other is not going to be allowed for any outsider or external use, right? Only the node itself can access itself. So we're going to be private, so we're going to contain this data, private data, and now we're going to create a pointer to point to the next object or to the next node, right? I'm going to say node star then next. Okay, after that we're going to create a constructor. This constructor is actually going to automatically set up the nodes that we create. So I'm going to call it node. Remember, node constructors often have the same name as the class, right? That's one thing you need to know. So I'm going to say node. This node is going to take as parameter value. This value is actually going to be the data that's going to be passed through. So value, I'm going to say data is going to be equals to value. Okay, now I'm going to set next. So this constructor is actually going to run automatically whenever a new node is being born, right? So I'm going to say null pointer. Now if you notice very well, you see that in C, for those of you who come from C background like me, we often use null like this, right? But in C++, in modern programming, we use null ptr or in lowercase. So this one is not advisable. The one in, you get the point. So after that, we are going to create a method. So after every new node is being born, this is going to run automatically. You're going to set the value to data, and it's going to set the next, that is the pointer, to a null pointer, unless we do it like customize it manually. Okay, so we're going to create a method which is going to be like it's going to link the current node to another, right? So I'm going to call it void set. This is going to be a setter, so set next. Since remember that our node, our next was private, right? So we need to use this setter method. So set next, we say set next node, going to be a pointer that is going to point to the next node. Okay, now the next node is going to be that's next equals to next node, like this. Okay, so after that we are going to need another method. This method is going to be like to display an object. That means if you want a node to display its content, right, we should just call it directly instead of making so many statement like cout statement to print data, right? So we're going to create a function that's going to print itself, right? So we're going to, this method is going to be called void, let's name it display. I think the name is cool. So display, so this display is going to print out itself, like what is found in it, right? So display std. Now some of you will be wondering, why am I using std double colon then cout, that is character out, instead of just putting namespace at the very beginning? Well, using namespace is not actually encouraged. It's kind of like a sin in C++, because when you use namespace, there could be conflicts in the variables you name in your program. Imagine just like using namespace contains variables like let me say the sort, count, that if you use it in your program, you discover it will create conflicts. And also if there are objects in the C++ library, you can also create conflicts, or maybe in some external programs when you want to link it. Anyway, it doesn't really matter that much, but I would advise you to always use customized variables like this, using standard character out like this, without using the namespace at the top. Get the point? Okay, so using namespace, I'm going to print this out. It's going to be let me say node data. Okay, so I'm going to print node data. That's going to be data, right? The data that is going to pass through. Okay, so I'm going to say after that I'll add to print std to for next line, right? I want to end the line to create a new line, right? Okay, so yes, that is it. We are going to need another method. This method is actually going to access the next node in the chain, right? So imagine this pointer stuff that I'm talking about. Like, let me say if you have a train car, right? There's always a hinge that links one train car to another. So this pointer is kind of like that's changed. I hope you can see this image. So this link, that this next is kind of now like that hinge that links two trains together. So that's why we need now this pointer called next. So to access the next node in the chain, we're going to create another method, which is going to be node get next. Let me put it that way. So get next is going to access the next node in the chain. So get next, let me scroll it down so you can see. It's going to return next, and the next node in the chain is going to return. Okay, after that, don't forget to end with our class with a semicolon. Okay, done with that, all of the data, all the objects we need in our class called node. Let's now dive into our main function. Okay, how will our main function look like? First of all, we need to create our object, right? The object that we did in this our constructor here. I hope you recall what we did here. So in the main function, let's say int main. So in our main function, we first all need to create our objects, right? So I'm going to say node. Let me call them just like from the image that you see here. We have node 1, node 2. So I'm going to call the object node 1. So node 1, I'm going to pass the value 10001, just like in this image. So we're going to be using that image as a sample. Okay, so node 1 is going to be given that value, and node 2 is going to be given 1002, just like from the image as you can see here. I hope it's clear enough. Okay, after that, now we need to link now the objects, right? So how do we do that? Maybe you could be commenting your code just as sometimes for easy readability. Let me just say creating object here. Objects. Okay, now here I could say something like put it like linking objects, right? Okay, like this. Okay, it's cool. Okay, so I'm going to say node 1 dot, remember our set next this thing method, right? So I'm going to say node 1 dot set next, and I'm going to pass the file, that means the address of node 2. So we're going to be node 2 here. So basically what will happen here, when I say next set next, let's go up to set next. So we're going to take the value, that means we're going to take the address of node 2 and store it in next, right? Okay, let's continue. Now what next? So we want to output first of all the content in node 1 directly without using linking. Let's first put that out before any other, maybe before using the linked list or the idea of these pointers, right? Okay, so let me first of all, let me print something out. Let me say see out, character out, right? I'm going to say we put something like direct access, right? Because this one will not actually need any pointer. So direct access. Okay, direct access. I hope that's how they spell access. Okay, after direct access, I'm going to make a new line. std and line. Okay, now I need to display now the content in node 1 directly without using any pointer. I'm going to say node 1 dot display. Remember what this display function does now. Since we made it public, it was public, right? Yeah, it was just a function that we call for the node to display itself. So this is part of this thing that we call, like, let me say, encapsulation, right? We combine everything, like we hide all the complex logic, right? So that anytime we need it, we just call it in our main function. And that's one pretty good thing about object-oriented programming. Okay, so next, what do we have to do? We need to print now the data in node 2 using the link, right? Using the pointer, right? So we're going to say std c out, and this character out. I'm going to say let me say link access, right? Okay, after that, let me end my line and std end line to create a new line. Okay, after that, now I will need a condition to check whether it is actually the last function, like, because for me to print, I need to first of all verify if this is the last function, right? So to do that, I need to use the if function. So if let me say node 1, right? Node 1 dot get next, right? If it's not equals to, if it's not equals to null pointer, right, then it is not the last node. So we need to verify if this is the last node. If it's not the last node, then we print. So if not the last node, then we say node 1. This is where the magic happens. So we're going to say node 1 dot get next, right? We attentive here. Get next, we are going to use this arrow operator. It's going to be like this, display. So what is happening here? Let me just explain. So basically we are telling node 1, like we are asking node 1 to tell its neighbor to display itself. So basically node 1 would tell its neighbor through that pointer to display itself with this function that we did here, right? So you kind of see that the use of making like small fragments of our code, right? Okay, So after that, now I think it's pretty done, but let's print something out for std c out. Okay, let's see what should happen. Hello Mr. DCT. Okay, I think that is cool. Since this is the last line, we don't actually need to create a new line, so let's just close with a semicolon, and that's all. I think that's basically it. And yeah, let's try now and compile and run our program. Since it's C++ program, I'm going to be using G++ compiler, G++ node C++ -o. The file name is going to be name node out. I think yes. Okay, actually now there's an error, I think so. So function start int main. Let's look at it. Okay, we do not return our function. Okay, actually this is normal. Most of us, when we code like that, we forget stuff. So let's save our program. Let's save w. Okay, let me recompile the program back. Wow. We get okay, no problem, no worries, calm down, relax. That's actually error. There's actually so many errors. GCC node -o noted out. Okay, we have int value data value node pointer. Okay, within this context, node context another one. Okay, let's look at node. When we pass the node, we said node 1, right, was 1001, right? That was the creation of the object. Now we are supposed to end. Yeah, we did this semicolon. Let's see. Don't panic. Okay, it's actually normal. As a programmer, you're always going to have errors like this. Okay, what again? You have nodes int value. Okay, I think it's because we kind of like made I don't think so. What could be another problem? Voila, I think we should make this public, because if we cannot access it, remember we made this class private by default, right? Now we need to turn this to public, the constructor, because we cannot actually access the constructor if it's private. So let's test it and see. Again, it's normal to have errors here. As a programmer, you receive this a lot. Okay, let's compile it again. Voila, you see, actually, yes, one fun thing about programming. So our constructor here was private, and we were calling it in our main function. Where is it here? We are calling it here, whereas it is private. See, one cool thing about object-oriented program, right? So in order to access it, we need to let it public, right? Okay, so after compiling successfully, that's the one in the green. Let's run it now. So /node output. Okay, and everything runs fine. We say data access, the one without pointer, we say node data equals to 1001, which is correct. Now we use link access through the pointer. Now we tell node 1 to tell its neighbor. That means we ask node 1 to tell its neighbor to print its content. That means we're going to be node, remember, using this, we're going to be node 1.get next arrow operator to display its content. That means the neighbor should display its content, and that neighbor is node 2. So node data equals to 1002, which is actually correct. Then finally our signature, Mr. DCT. So basically that was it. You learned a lot, and you saw how what programmers go through, right? When you have an error, don't panic, take a deep breath and see how you can debug it. So thank you very much. I hope this video was helpful, and bye.